Well, you're listening to the Vitalmoments podcast. My name is David. I'm joined by Ron Baker, the lead pastor, and my father. And we're going to talk about the series that we're in right now. Jesus Said What? Looking at the Sermon on the Mount, chapters 5, 6, and 7 from the Gospel of Matthew. I really love this gospel. It is something that just paints a beautiful picture of who Christ is, and really this awesome account of Jesus and him bringing the kingdom of heaven to this earth. And I've enjoyed this series. What have you enjoyed about the series? Let me ask you right off the hop. What's something for you? Because you designed this series. Obviously, we had a team of people around it, but it came from your heart. What's something that you're loving about it?
Well, I think first and foremost, it's breaking some of our cultural norms, and it's also speaking directly into our lives as followers of Jesus and people who are seeking and exploring to be followers of Jesus. And I just think that there's a certain element of what we need right now is clear teaching on biblical truth that helps people understand God's design and plan. And one of the thoughts, I think I've been actually thinking about this because I'm reading this book by Rob Reimer, Soul Care Leader. And one of the things that he speaks about with regards to the Sermon on the Mount, he says, I was looking for it while we were doing this, but anyway, knowledge of the ways of the kingdom will not produce life change. Obedience to the king and the ways of the kingdom will change your life.
Ooh.
And he builds that around Matthew 5, 24, 27. And, if anyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice will be like a wise person who builds a house on the rock. That whole rain and storm comes. And I think that, Jesus, I think somewhere else he says in this, Jesus wasn't a knowledge-based teacher. He was an obedience-demanding king or something like that. And I think that this is part of what we're doing is we're trying to unpack this for people to understand this kingdom normal that is not of this world. And thankfully, it's not left to our own strength and might. It's that dying to self where the life of Christ is, birthed in us and lived in us. And there's a realm beyond this one and that we just see with our own physical eyes. And so I think the challenge has been really good for people. And I mean, it's challenging us as a teaching team.
Yeah, it really is. And that's what I like about this series is it's challenging every aspect of our church. It's really becoming this beautiful discipleship series of people really seeing, and am I reflecting the kingdom of heaven? Am I really living and believing and taking Jesus seriously in his teachings? Or am I kind of saying, you know what, I'll kind of pick and choose. Like I had a guy in Exeter yesterday, it was second week coming. He came to Easter, took a couple weeks off, and then he's been back for the last 2 weeks. And I said, so what are you enjoying about it? He goes, man, there's just something different about these teachings. And I was just like, wow, here's a guy, he's like 18, 19. He's trying to figure out life. It's really the big formative years of his life, right? And he's really trying to seek what's going on in life and faith. And he's loved the teachings that it's pushing him. And this conversation that we had this past weekend, you can't serve two masters. It landed in all rooms, I think. And a really reality and a reality check, but also this calm, gentle, where is your heart at?
Yeah. And it's good for anyone like this young guy that's exploring. We've heard of other stories in other sites of ours that people that are don't have a lot of church experience that have been really impacted by this series. And and others that have been followers of Jesus for a long time that is
Mhm.
disrupting their thinking. And sometimes I believe that sometimes, and we hear this sometimes from people outside the church, from other churches. Oh, you're kind of like a starter church. Like people can start at your church, find Jesus, and then
Mhm.
go to other churches to be discipled. And I can understand how that can be perceived from the outside, but man, we are really leaning in on things that create an urgency around discipleship, a desire
Mhm.
around discipleship. And even though we are passionately outward focused, I mean, we're absolutely committed to, reaching the people in our circles of influence and our friends and workplace and all that. And we're also, deliberate with our discipleship pathways. So it's good.
Yeah. Can't serve two masters. This is usually a
Mm,
talk around money. Like a lot of pastors, a lot of church people would say, "Oh, great, here comes the money talk." Um,
yeah.
but you got to the heart of it if you really think about it.
Yeah.
You got
Yeah.
to the heart of it. And I want to hear your heart in this space right now of why you went to the heart instead of saying, you know what, I'm going to take a moment to tell people we really got to think about giving to God what is already his. Why the heart?
Well, the balance in the conversation, see, our hearts is that place that we speak about, is where passion and desire is, and it's that seed, that the seat of who we are, right? So it's where things land, it's where things stay, it's where things capture our attention, is our heart. And so
Mhm.
what Jesus doing in this particular section, I believe, was really trying to um take us to that place of examining our hearts and what are we prioritizing, the reality of the physical realm, or prioritizing the kingdom reality. And if we're not careful, we will be captured by the earthly realm, which is temporary. And so it which becomes a distraction to our hearts. And focusing on the reality of the kingdom of heaven. I mean, everything that Jesus said, everything that Jesus taught, exemplified by his life, by his teachings, by his miracles, was all about revealing the kingdom. And oftentimes we get distracted and consumed with just this realm, and we miss out on the things that are eternal. And I'm convinced that if we can protect our heart, and if we can guard our heart, and if we can live for the unseen reality of the kingdom of heaven, then there is life, there is purpose, there is meaning, and there is the ability to experience the kingdom normal.
Okay, so
Now,
what about the reality of like just this world? Like you talked about things in your message a little bit. It's
yeah,
like, are things bad? Because God created this world.
yeah, right. And I think that that's the reality. These things are to be enjoyed, not to be prioritized
Oh, I
as
like
the
that.
main thing, right? I believe that yeah, you're right. I mean, we in our Western culture, we
Mhm.
have things to be enjoyed. They're not to be worshipped. We
Do you
have
think people would
things,
step into more of a worship mentality?
yeah, because they give their allegiance to certain things, right? They
Mm.
they want to, you know, have that bigger, faster, or sometimes I'll hear people say they're forever home, right? And I sometimes
Mm.
think to myself, that's a really dangerous mentality. My forever home. This is buying into a mindset that says I am willing to do whatever, sacrifice whatever, go
Mm.
into whatever amount of debt possible to have my forever home. When reality is that is just temporary. It's gonna fall apart. It's gonna
Or you see that person and family move 3 years later.
Yeah,
You know what I
because
mean?
the next forever home has come along, and
Mhm.
and are drawn to that, or it's or it's like I'll never have to buy another car because I got this brand new one. And the
Mhm.
reality is that it's going to end up in a junkyard sometime.
And that's why Jesus says, "Moths, rust, and thieves come," right?
Yeah,
And they will
moth,
take
rust,
these
and thieves.
things.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Do you think when we do you think when we think about the things that we have and we step into this posture or start living from a posture of like the Bible talks a lot about idols, right? Like
Hmm.
don't have idols, don't make idols. Um
Mm,
in our
yeah,
Western world, I'm saying Western world, because our the other side of the world that don't live from a place of abundance like our Western culture has consumed so much.
yeah.
Do you think we've come into this dangerous mentality or posture of seeing our things being where we get our satisfaction? And when we live from that posture of this is what gives me satisfaction, it reveals the depths of what your heart is actually looking like and is
See,
operating.
yeah, see, our hearts are not our physical hearts, but we're created to worship,
Yeah.
right? We're created in the original design. We are to live in perfect peace and worship of God. That was broken. Disobedience broke that. So the heart is longing to worship something.
Hmm.
And if we worship the temporary, then that's all we're going to have is just that temporary hit, fix, whatever it is, right? And our lives are designed to be centered around God, where He will ultimately be our satisfaction. He will ultimately be the one that when we seek first His kingdom,
Hmm.
you know, seek first His kingdom, and all these things will be added. So then, what we do is we recognize that the things that we do have fall into their right place in the sense of just part of being in this physical realm, but we can use them. Like I have a friend that um, purchased a property that has a barn on it, and it was so interesting. He said, I can't wait to get this barn cleaned up because I can just see us having some nights for the church gathering in this barn,
Hmm.
and
Yeah, that's
you know
beautiful.
having time of music and prayer, and he wants to use it for that purpose. And I think that I don't think he was using it to justify purchasing the property. He genuinely believes that God's going to use this particular property for this purpose of his for kingdom purposes, right?
Hmm.
And I know there's a that's a really cool place to put that particular thing.
Yeah, yeah, because I think what God does, and I should say, I believe what God does there, He sees the heart of that person and the desires and the passions to create a space for people to experience Him,
Yep.
this experience God, where then God will actually fuel that
Mm,
because there's this posture of simple living of like, this is not just for me, it is for a group of people to experience what God has given me
mm,
and but also not just given me but given us as a community of people. And I think that's what's beautiful about when even Colossians talks about like that, fix your eyes on the things above, not on the things of this world.
yeah.
When someone comes and lives in a posture of seeking, looking, fixing their eyes on the things of heaven,
Yeah.
it makes a life of living here on earth, this temporary place, um, with a new set of eyes
Yeah.
or a new lens to live simply with the possessions. I think Scott McKnight, you said, live
Yeah.
simply, possessions are mysteriously
Mystery
idolatrous,
idolatrous. Yeah.
trust God.
Yeah. Oh man, good memory.
Yeah. And but that quote is so beautiful, right? Like live
Right.
simply,
Yeah.
don't allow your possessions to become
Your
idols,
master. Your
your
master.
master.
Yeah.
And then you said earlier in your message, and we can lean on this to the end of this conversation. It's like I trust you
Yeah.
because often we trust our material,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The stuff
Yep.
that we consume, we buy, we take, we bring into our
Accumulate. Yeah.
accumulate. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you're saying like, no, 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 no. I trust you, God.
Hmm. I was reading this morning, First John chapter 2, verse 15. Do not love the world or the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the desires of the flesh and the desires of the eyes and pride of life, is not from the Father, but from this world. And the world is passing away along with its desires, but whoever does the will of God abides forever.
Mm.
And, for me, it's that constant tension and pull that the world has on my life, where I try to not allow it to become priority. And I have to be willing to die to self in order for the kingdom of heaven to be my priority, my focus, and my self-reliance, my self dependence, or whatever we want to call it, is only working against what God wants for me. And so I have to find a way to completely surrender each and every day. And then when things get off track, we do. This is the reality of being human beings, is that
Mm.
we're not bad people if we get pulled away, but we must be aware that the pull is there and we become distracted, and then we live beneath the good that God has created for us to do. Because if we are masterpieces in Christ, created for good works according to his kingdom, the things of this world pull us away from that if we're not careful. And so that's why I believe it's important talk to have around the two masters.
Mm-hmm. And it was. And I think what's beautiful about this conversation is that it is one that we can come back to time and time again. I know I've been
Mhm.
reading Soul Care as well by Rob Reimer, and you have to come back to the things. You have to know, engage where your health is at when it comes to your life and
Yeah.
faith in relationship with
Mhm.
God, and have things that identify, okay, whoa, I'm being pulled into the world. Have people in your life being like, whoa, 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 red flag. You're starting to look a lot like the world. You're pulling into that area. Remember, fix your eyes on the things of kingdom of heaven. And
Yeah.
I think that's just what's amazing. Like you said at the top of this conversation today, as we wrap this up and jump in this conversation,
Mhm.
this series is really helping people discern, okay, where is my life at? Where is my faith? And can I trust Jesus with everything? So
Mhm.
cool.
It's good.
Can't serve two masters. I
You
love it.
love the one, hate the other.
Yeah, you will. You will.
Jesus doesn't
Yeah.
hold back, eh? It's amazing.
No, I love it. He's like, he takes off the boxing gloves
Yeah.
and he's just like, let's hit up with knuckles. He's a
Yeah.
UFC fighter.
Oh boy.
I love it. Okay. Thanks
I
so
don't
much, everyone, for listening.
Yeah.
This has been the Vital Moments podcast. If you are not connected at Vital Point Church, we'd love for you to get connected. Check out our website. We've got a few groups. New groups will hopefully get ready to go in the fall. Summertime, everyone pieces out. So we just want to make sure that we have stuff ready for you in the fall when we get back together. And big things happening at church, June 25th. We have our VPC Family Day, baptisms, baby dedications. If you are someone that wants to take that step of faith or has a little one in your family that you'd love to dedicate, we'd love to do
Mhm.
that and celebrate in Poplar Hill on June 25th.
We
Okay.
got a cool thing happening that day. It's gonna be a surprise for VPC wide, because
I don't
all
even know.
sites.
Do I know?
Yeah, you do know, but
Oh, okay. It's not a surprise for me.
no, it's not a
Surprise for
surprise
you
for you.
though.
It'll be somewhat a surprise to our community, so it's gonna be fun.
Cool. Can't wait. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day and peace out.